Lots of outrage being expressed in many different ways. Outrage against Iran's presidential election being voiced so many different ways here, as you see in a rally. Rallies being held in several cities today, including this one in Atlanta. Protesters claim the re-election of President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was rigged, and many are demanding a new election be held. The protests are visible evidence of election unrest, but there are also developments behind the scenes in this unprecedented challenge to the Iranian government. Joining us from Washington, Trita Parsi, an expert on Iranian politics, also the president of the National Iranian American Council. Good to see you again, Trita. You spent a lot of time with us yesterday, helping us to better understand all that's taking place. I'm doing good. Well, quickly, you know, Ahmadinejad said during that press conference today that the only one asking the questions here about whether this was a legitimate and fair election are the press. It's not the public. What else did you hear from him?
Well, I mean, what he's trying to do is that he's trying to frame this issue that this is not a popular dissent with how the votes went, but rather this is a Western media conspiracy. He's trying to portray the people who are upset about this, who are protesting or are in disbelief right now, as if they have been tricked, not by the Interior Ministry and the Iranian government, but by media reports from the West.
And you get mixed reviews from people, some who say, well, they're not surprised about this outcome, and then there are others who were very hopeful that this was different, this was going to be different. Was this, I guess, was the stage set that this was indeed going to be a very different election, a very different outcome, or was that just hope that was being expressed by a few?
Only 2-3 weeks before the elections, there wasn't that much of an excitement. It was rather quiet, and a lot of people were actually wondering whether the opposition candidates would be able to get out the vote, so to say. It's not until about a week and a half before the elections that some sort of electricity started to spread. And it was to a large part...
that electricity? That electricity of some velvet revolution, quote unquote?
Well, I wouldn't go as far as saying velvet revolution, because we have to remember this is not an election about overthrowing the system. At the end of the day, Mousavi has been more involved and been there from the very beginning of the revolution in a way that Ahmadinejad never was. Mousavi is one of the founders of the revolution. So we have to be careful not to confuse this to be an election about whether to go forward with a system or to completely get rid of it.
Because Mousavi was a former prime minister, so then if the election is such that not much change is really expected, because it's not the president who will run and rule the country, it really is the Ayatollah, the grand spiritual leaders, then what was this election to really represent?
Well, the president is not as powerful as a president in the United States or any other country would be. Their system is a little bit different. But it's nevertheless not an inconsequential position either. And with the president would come a new cabinet and a lot of new people into the bureaucracy and into what is called the power elite. So through that, this is not an irrelevant election in any way, shape, or form.
So now what happens to that momentum? I asked this to an Iranian American who joined us earlier, who was out in the D.C. protest. What happens to this momentum that so many people witnessed, that so many were part of being galvanized by Mousavi? What happens now? Or will he quietly kind of disappear? Will that movement quietly disappear? Or will it continue to erupt in other fashions?
It doesn't seem likely that it will disappear any time within the week, or at least, because Mousavi has made it clear that he's in support of non-violent protests. Of course, a lot of these protests have not necessarily been non-violent, though. But the disappointment amongst those who supported Mousavi seems to be so great. The question is, how will they channel it? They seem to be waiting for greater and more detailed instructions on what they should be doing, but so far, Mousavi and the people around him have not revealed any particular plan. They may be working on a plan, but they have not revealed any particular plan.
All right, Trita Parsi, thanks so much for joining us from Washington today. Appreciate it. And of course, we're hearing from you and so many